All right,
All right,
we're live.
let's do it.
You ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
All right. This is the note card fest. I don't want to call it a challenge. I called it a challenge last time. And Dolly, my dog, is coming here. So my project, Jason, is to have conversations with the awesome people in my life. Just as a way of introduction, me and you met through Shannon Leadership Institute.
That's right.
We were on our renewal journey, and there's no better way to meet somebody new than gets assigned to them as bunkmate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
our very first interaction was, I think that was our very first conversation even, was like, oh, we're roommates.
Right. We were like other sides of the room, didn't really
Yeah.
interact until we had to go to bed. And then I didn't want the conversation to stop.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You never know. It's such a gamble, like who you're gonna get. And yeah. So
worked out.
Yeah. Oh, Dolly's here. So hey, Dolly. Well, I just want to say thank you. I think you're awesome. I think we've connected. We're both Enneagram 5s.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a chance to chat. And so when this project of how do I share just people in my community, my sphere, and other people, how do I share your voices? You jumped out, and we were due to connect anyway. And so I'm trying to think of interesting icebreaker conversations, because a lot of times I listen to these types of conversations, and the first part is like just the person giving their resume or their LinkedIn bio, and it's like, oh, I graduated from this institute. And so like, I don't know, I want this to be more personal. So we're just chatting. I thought a good intro is we did the Shannon Leadership Institute to facilitate our personal renewal journeys. And so, yeah, this is a good time, as good of time as any, to check in. How's your renewal journey going? Or what does that mean?
It's good. I was more renewed when there was more accountability. And so I was really renewed by the end of Shannon. Like, I thought that was a fantastic practice. And it went from my understanding of what renewal and the whole entire point of Shannon shifted by kind of like the very end. Like, I always kind of thought it was about networking a little bit. I was transitioning with the job and complete pivot. And so I was really focused on those types of things. Of like, my renewal is to, like, be in my new career of some sort. And what I eventually figured out, although it took me, I think, like the last 2 sessions, is what really got me there, was like, it wasn't about my career or my pivot at all. It was much more like a personal journey of the things I find that, really give me life. And so it got me to writing it, which is, part of the Shannon was more like consistent journaling, which is just, something that I, need to do. I had writing ideas that had been placed on the back burner for years, and that I dished back out and dusted off and went back to, and was really, really excited. And then the challenge, of course, is like, how do you sustain that energy?
Because you said give me life.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when it comes to writing, and in particular, like the stories I want to share around race and racism and family and love and navigating all of those things, justice, was really energized. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't want it to stop. And I could, you know, write for hours on end.
Yeah.
And I was. And then sometimes life just jumps up and you're like, oh, I don't have quite the space. I have the mind space. I feel it, like it's sitting there.
Yeah.
But it hasn't made it from my head to the page quite yet. I do live in my head quite a bit, so maybe that's not a bad thing. Because then it like turns out this like fully formed credo of some sort. Anyway, to kind of like answer your question, like it has lost steam, but I still feel like what I want to do is available to me. And I still like, I feel good about it. Like I'm not trying to beat myself up. That was one of the things with the renewal that I told myself, like, I'm not writing the great American novel, or at least I'm telling myself that. And it's okay just to like journal prompt, or you know, just write a dream, like, or what have you, like, you know, just write. So, but it's okay that if you don't just write too, like, you know, I'm not going to beat myself up about it either. So, I mean, overall, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely decent.
Yeah. When you said "Give Me Life," it just resonates because, you know, I think of how much, or times in my life where I've just been really in low spaces, like still functioning, and I don't have that sense of life. You know, I've served in, you know, various capacities, and you know, whether we want to call it burnout or compassion fatigue, whatever label we want to give it, like I don't feel like I have that life energy, and like even a sense of love. And like this is why I wanted to do this project, is I want to talk to people about that. Like what do they do to have that sense of love, that sense of life, you know, for you to have that ability to tell your story, tell a story, and still navigate this life, like the really hard shit. You know, it's like, for some reason I thought, like, I was like, I couldn't have both. I couldn't have joy while other people were suffering. And so I'm exploring that. And so I gave you the note card. Gave you 5 minutes while I was talking to jot down your thoughts, with the prompt of, like, what does it mean to show up with love? Is it even possible? Because like I kind of thought of it academically, where it's like, of course, you know, there's leaders, like there's incredible global leaders who have these natural, joyful and loving spirits that, you know, have liberated countries. And but like I don't know, maybe I yearn for that. And so I'm asking folks, like, you know, you do so much for others, and you take on these systemic issues, and like, how do you show up as a dad? Like, how do you show up with that sense of a dad, a partner? Like, how do you show up with that sense of love, or is it even possible? And so that was the prompt I handed you, and gave you 5 distracted minutes to reflect on it. So yeah, what surfaces when I offer that up? And you can go whatever way you want to go. It doesn't have to be a
I think like I feel I feel grounded in a sense that I have a very strong conviction
Okay.
of what's right in this world.
Yeah.
And I'm moving towards, in whatever way, be it big or small, like addressing that, and so like my like sense of social justice is like extremely like strong.
Mhm.
And I have this strong conviction like to heal past historic wrongs. Now whether or not that's happening is a whole
Right.
another conversation, but that's where like I feel like I'm
Yeah.
grounded. Like this is the kind of person I've been for like, at for a long, from it's like my entire life, right? So I don't know, like growing up as like, a biracial dude in an all white neighborhood, and like all we had was our family, like for a lot of it. Like, I mean, it was just very like insular. It was also very like lonely. And so I was just in my head a lot, but we just had a strong sense, like familial sense of what justice was, and
Right.
what civil rights were, and what it meant to love each other in the face of where others are telling you that's not right, and so like I had a very strong sense of what like a loving relationship is and are. Like my parents are still together, 80 and 81 years old. The stuff that they had gone through is, unfathomable, really. And they were models to me, like, and but it was also like we're also on an island. Like we did have family. That was a little bit more like touchy. I like looking back on it, I can see that there were tensions, but in the moment as a kid, I never saw any of that. Like, I was completely loved by both my grandparents. And I didn't see these other things that were probably happening, or the stress that it was to have a biracial kid in a very small rural white town for the summer, like I just had a great time. I went to the pool and swam or whatever. I had no idea what the behind the scenes of that it was, but so my upbringing was kind of joyous, like within family, kind of lonely outside of that until about high school, right, where like you just kind of really become more a sense of yourself. And that was a time where I just kind of got the real sense of kind of right and wrong. Like I'm really strong into like the anti-apartheid movement of the late 80s, and like Irish liberation was kind of around the same time, and Amnesty International, like those are all things I was involved in like in high school. Kind of the punk scene, but again, like an outsider, like especially in like all white Omaha, being like mixed race dude, that it wasn't always like super comfortable, but I just have to be who I am within my own skin. So I feel like I've had like a lot of training of being just who I am and not given two fucks.
But that's so hard, right?
Right.
I mean, I feel like I don't know, maybe I struggled so much with it that it's just great to hear that you had that ability at a young age.
Yeah. I mean, and then you have your friend groups or whatever that has a support and pull you through, and then like events around you shape you. So I go to college, and then it's kind of like Rodney King is an awakening
Mm.
kind of moment. And I was an art major, and so a lot of art was like dealing with the issues that were confronting us at that time, and which are the same, unfortunately, now.
Right.
So I put a lot of it into my art too. And then, and then it just becomes like this path where at some point in my mid-20s, I asked myself a question, like, what is it that I can do that can alleviate the most suffering? Like that, what is it that I can do? And I landed on that I could be a teacher.
Way to pick a small goal, alleviate all suffering. I love it. I love it.
But in my, what can I personally do?
Yeah.
To help alleviate suffering.
So would you say that is a way that picking what you have potentially control over? Because that's what I think about. Like everything you've described, a major global events, like how do we get out of bed?
Yeah.
Like when we're facing that, and it's not global, it's our community.
Yeah. It's a question. It's a question I've thought about, and in respects to, so we're in, I don't know, our like 400 years of inequality, and that, just going back to people I knew, like my grandfather, my father's father, died before any resolution. There was movement of the needle, but not very far. My dad is now in his 80s. Here I am. Like, is there going to be better movement of the needle anymore? Like, and then what will it be for my son? And so that's really this kind of, and what about if there's another generation beyond that, right? Like, where are we going to be? What will it look like? But in a way, that's what motivates me to keep going.
Okay. Because you're about to talk about teaching.
Yeah. I mean, that's the motivation is to, and with teaching for me, like, was like, how can I affect change? And maybe more, that's probably, I was more the question than suffering, but kind of same thing. But how can I best, in my one little way, whatever it is I can do, affect change? And in this case, like some sort of social change. And to me, it was teaching. Like at that time, it was interesting because my idea was, okay, all kids need to go to college. Like that's what's gonna like change, because then their like economic situation is gonna improve if they go to college and then get a good job. And that was just kind of my naivete of not having kids at the time. But this is what was necessary. And that has since shifted. Like, I don't believe that's actually true, that all kids need to go to college. It's just not for everyone.
Right.
And so, but what I was going to do is I was going to like speak truth, basically.
Okay.
Like pull down the walls, right?
Yeah.
Of like reveal that our history, I was a history teacher, that our history is rich and basically been lied to your entire lives about like what we are in this world, and how can then our understanding of that like help manifest change or alleviate suffering within this country. So that was the kind of teaching aspect. Yeah.
So with the card, what do you do? Because you take on big issues. Like you get right in there. And I think there's this idea that love is like you're gonna go in there like positive as hell. It's like, hey, I'm here to help. Whereas like I because part of this is like how the hell do we even define love? And it's not the toxic positivity or like bypassing all the actual feelings. Like I'm asking people, and there doesn't even have to be any answers. There can be more questions than there are answers, but I'm just curious as to like, I also struggle with being like just kind of a cynical asshole for a lot of my times. Like I was kind of sarcastic. I thought I knew the way.
Yeah.
I wasn't the most open-minded, and it's not typically common. And so I'm trying to be like more open-minded. And so, yeah, I'm just wondering like how, like with your kids, like how do you set the example, or with, your community? Like what inspires you and how do you show up? And then like, how do you deal when, because you said earlier, it's like trying to make change. And I don't even know if change is even happening. So like, how do you sit with that? Like, how do you show up for your family, your community, when you don't even see the change potentially, or that the change is so incremental, or the change is going back? And yeah, so that's my question. And I don't expect you.
Well, I think so, a lot of that stems from like, I feel like my own mental stability, like how do you keep yourself sane in an insane world? And so
like loving, healing,
eternally. And so that's a lot. Like I think it has to start with yourself. And so I take care of myself.
Nice.
And if I don't take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to show up for the next person, or for my family or whatever. And I've taken, that attitude in kind of mind and body. So I'm like continuing trying to learn, like try to read and learn new things. I want new experiences. I seek things out that are new and interesting to me, or whether it's art or books, and nature is a real big, be immersed in it, and at least have, be out in the elements, and those types of things are all part of what keep me sane and grounded, whether or not all this outside stuff is happening.
Right.
And it's a way to leave that for a little bit, because I'm going to be coming back, and it's either part of my it's part of my job, or it's a part of my free time, or it's a part of my art, like it's all, or it's part of it. What I read is, kind of are things that cascade upon and creep on this sense of like, oh my gosh, like how can you not be cynical in this kind of when you keep on seeing the same things happen over and over and over again?
Right.
Well, take a 40-minute hike. In the snow, and just then come back.
Right.
Maybe look at it fresh or what have you. But those, I mean, I do think that taking care of yourself is really important in order to show up on a daily basis, regardless of what's going on around you in the world. It seems very selfish, but it's also it's also just so necessary, and I need to acknowledge, like, I mean, to do that, like, there's not even a fair amount. I mean, it is entirely based on privilege, right? I mean, I had the privilege to have a free space to, like, oh, I'm going to take a hike tonight.
Right, it's hard to do that.
Do yoga this morning,
right?
Like,
if you have housing insecurity,
then
we were talking about,
exactly. Like, right, then it's hard to find that space to dream, which is, like, so you have to, I am definitely trying to acknowledge, like, my privilege in
Yeah.
that way is to like this sense of I need to use the fact that I am privileged to be able to help others who don't necessarily have that space. And that's just kind of like how I've been. And I mean, my family's been that way. So, my father's family is a family of teachers. Everyone's a teacher, except for my dad. And then I was a teacher, and my brother was a teacher. And so, you know, both uncles and my aunt and my grandfather, like they're all teachers. And so it was just a way of like, that is our service, you know?
Yeah.
And it is about, you know, how we kind of show up in our community, right?
And how do you do that when, so I know especially in education, I spent a little time as a sub, and just gosh, some days were just so exciting, and then other days I just wanted to go into my car and cry. Whereas like I am this person, this is like this student is getting the school is the only source of food. I'm potentially one of like the healthier adults in their life. So like, do you think it's possible to keep showing up with love in the face of that type? Because I know you're in housing now. Like, you don't.
It's really hard. I mean, I was. I mean, because I was ultimately driven from it, right? I mean, you know, it takes a certain, like you can be a certain energy. And you know, what had happened to me is I took this long layoff, and it was completely different. If I'd stayed in teaching and, you know, this long layoff, it would have been like I had been teaching for 20 years versus I taught for 10 and then came back 10 years later, you know? And that was so hard. It was so hard. And it drove, and like, I can't, and I was with you. Like, I was like, it turns out I really can't do this. It was a job I loved.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just can't do this.
Yeah.
But I still need to do something.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly.
So I was like, if I can't do this, then let me work on what this next thing is going to be.
Oh, so yeah, I know all these things like ding, 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 going off. Yeah, because it's like, it's not a one size fits all model. It's like you can have these intentions to have this change and impact, and then kind of doing a lot of internal analysis and healing and care and finding those spaces that fit for each personality. That's kind of what I'm gleaning, because I was in public defense and I loved it. Like the mission was powerful, but just like feeling like you never got a single win. Like even if I like won for the client, like there were still so many other, the legal system ultimately defeated them by putting them through that ringer. Like if you're charged with an offense, your life is ruined. You know?
It's the same
and
thing
so
we
like
were just talking about with the housing situation. Man, you just get back up, I suppose, and do what you can. Like but you have to come back. I think you always, you know, in those things, like you always have to come back to yourself. Like, if I wasn't, you know, that last year of teaching, when I just wanted to like quit, I really did. I wanted to quit so bad. But like I just go to the gym. Like, you know, do those things. Like I continue to try to take care of myself. I can't imagine if I was like not healthy and not in the right mindset, and like in this place where it just like I just want to leave. That I, you know, it just would have been a lot worse. In that case, like I picked one guy that was just, you know, he was just, probably still is, of course, just like so bright, but just didn't come to class. And I was just kind of like, you know, so I was just like, all right, I hate everybody else. I hate all these children. But this is one I'm gonna focus on one person. I'm gonna show up for this one person, essentially,
Yeah.
who didn't show up for me, but like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's either he's going to like do well and graduate in school, or he's gonna ultimately like write a fantastic prison novel or something.
Yeah.
From my understanding, he's chosen the prison route.
Oh.
And it's just like, it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And even when you like try to put all your energy into one person, like there has to be some reciprocity there, right? Like,
yeah.
So I totally get it. Like it was rough. It was rough.
Yeah, like how do you serve, especially how do you serve with love and show up? I haven't served because I think of it as just life.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm even trying to lose the term service, even though I probably said it 5 times. Like, how do I live with love, knowing that the consequences I can't control?
Yeah.
Like I can only control my effort. I have no idea how things are going to play out. Or even sometimes when I try my best, I'm like, shit, I made things worse.
Yeah.
Being cognizant of that. But yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Was there anything that you jotted down? And you don't have to have even any words of wisdom. You can raise new questions to ponder. But yeah, I'm so excited that I get to capture conversations with so many great people.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like it's a cool project.
Is there anything you want to share? No pressure.
No pressure. I mean, I think that what the heart of a lot of this is this need of what is self-care, right? I mean, of like,
yeah,
you can't show. I just will reiterate, like you can't show up unless you have taken care of yourself in some capacity. Yeah, and this is true with I think it's especially true with parenting, or any other relationships that you have, like, and if that's like creating some space for yourself, just to be like, this is my time. And I don't know, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but like, I'm going to do something that is away from that. And that will help me show up even better when I am there. Right. Like, again, like also true, right? Like it requires an amount of privilege to be able to do that. Yeah. Right. Because not everyone is able to take a moment for them, take 15 minutes for themselves. Like it really is incredible to really kind of, I don't know where my day went.
Yeah. And especially if we don't feel like we're receiving love, being intentional to like give ourselves that like compassion. Like you talked a lot about, you talked about grace, give ourselves compassion and love, and then finding spaces where we can get it, as I'm a big proponent of community, but just like really being intentional of, this is the only way I'm going to get through my day. And it's a necessity. It's up there, again, I mean, it gets framed because sure, if you don't have a roof over your head and you don't have clean drinking water, you don't have access to healthy produce, like it can be really hard to be intentional about
it. I think you raise a really good point, and that is something that is like hasn't been said is like, I need love reflected to me too. Like I wouldn't be able to do that. I would not be able to do what I do or do what I've been doing. I've been with my partner for 26 years, right? Yeah. Like without being able to have like to be loved. Yeah. Like I can't give any love and not be loved. I mean, that's kind of like the teaching scenario. Like I am giving myself and I'm not getting like anything in return. Yeah. So it's only going to be real successful if I get something in return, transactional It's not, but it is like, I need to be able to feel the love back. Like, and that's what kind of this, it's a, feedback loop on itself, where I can show up, I can provide love, I can be in this loving relationship with my family, with my friends or whatever. But I need to feel that love back.
Yeah.
So it just strengthens those bonds,
And I think it's so honest, because I feel like the message I got was like almost like kind of like be the martyr syndrome. It's like this rugged individualism, I'm just gonna be, I don't need anything.
Yeah.
Like I don't need, like I just need to ride on a horse or go through town, not having those intimate friendships. I mean, at 26 years old, if I like refer to our friendships as like intimate, like I just didn't have any of that maturity. And not that I really have maturity now, but I'm getting better. Maybe, I don't know, but like giving and receiving love, it is essential. But like I don't feel like I grew up with that mentality. It was like I don't need anything from anybody else. I'm this lone warrior type. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like, shit, that's so unhealthy. And I'm like, am I trying to do that with my son now? Because he's navigating this. And
it really was our role models, was that like, the cowboy rising in town. I don't need anything. I'll solve all the problems and I'll move on.
I'm gonna shoot everybody. But no, like it's really taken me a lot of time with my partner Kate to be like, hey, I need this. Like using the I need, or I want, or like I need this to be fulfilled, isn't unhealthy codependency. It's just being a human. Plants need sun. Like why wouldn't I need that? So thank you for being honest with that. And I think that is really something to emphasize, like especially with a culture that maybe doesn't encourage that. So well, you're awesome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll hit the pause button.
Okay.